And who am I? That's not a secret I'll never tell. You know you love me. XOXO. Gossip Girl.
What's up? We got Gossip Girl, Season 1, Episode 9, Blair Waldorf Must Pie. This episode starts off with a flashback to Thanksgiving the previous year, with Blair escorting a drunk Serena out of a bar. She notices that Serena's purse is gone missing, and Serena's purse is gone and goes back inside to retrieve it. Meanwhile, past Dan is coming out of a bakery after picking up some pie, and he sees past Serena wandering into the street, nearly missing several oncoming cars. He jumps in to save her, save her and helps her to the sidewalk. But unfortunately, past Dan loses his pie. Dan introduces himself, and he mentions that, he and Serena actually met previously before the events of when they actually meet in the show. But she's obviously too drunk not to. Blair comes out and accuses Dan of trying to take advantage of Serena on the holiday. And she and Blair get into a cab and drive away. In the present day, Serena calls Dan early to the Waldorf. She explains that Blair's dad, Harold, is coming home for the first time since he left. And Blair's very excited. They also discuss how Allison is there for the holiday too, and then plans to talk about it later. At the loft, Dan comes out of his room to find everyone preparing food for Thanksgiving. They encourage him to be positive, and which he agrees to do. At the Waldorf, Blair searches for Harold's famous pumpkin pie recipe, which he hopes to have done before he arrives. Serena mentions that it seems to be in a good mood, maybe because she and Nate got back together. Blair says no, and Serena asks if Blair knows what Chuck was doing for the holiday. She asks why would she ask her that, and Serena says she saw her and Chuck sleeping together at the party, and she admits that she doesn't know what she was thinking to have slept with him twice. Serena's shock makes a noise of and Blair says, Blair says she has no idea what she was doing, thinking of sleeping with Chuck twice. Shocked, Serena makes a noise of anguish, and says she shouldn't have slept with Chuck for revenge. They argue about who slept with who and why, until Eleanor enters the kitchen. She asks Serena when Lily's arriving, but both girls explain that the Vanderwoodens aren't coming this year because Blair uninvited them. Afterwards, Serena, Eric, and Lily head to Chinatown to find something to make for the dinner. While they search, Serena gets a call from Dan. She explains to him that she got into a huge fight with Blair, her family, and now has nothing to do for holiday. Dan thinks for a moment and invites them to come over for dinner. Because Dan has no idea about what Lily and Rufus's past, and he has no idea that his mom secretly hates Lily. So of course he invites them anyway. And because Lily has no idea that Allison's in town, she's of course gonna go. She's excited to tell Lily about the invitation. Eric immediately agrees to it. I feel like this episode is where the start of Eric's hair going from the blondish look to the more dark brown hair that he has in the later seasons, because his hair is starting to go through some sort of change as the start of this episode. I know later on he goes through his hair gets more darker, but I feel like this episode is the start of that, because I noticed when I went back that Eric's hair, when I went back and did this episode, when I watched this episode originally, I kind of didn't notice that Eric's hair had changed. But now, looking back, I kind of realized that, I think this is the episode where Eric's hair starts to change from blonde to more darkish brown. It's a mix between brown and blonde, before eventually going to the dark brown look that Eric has to this day. But still, it's weird that this is the episode where Eric's hair starts changing. Eric immediately agrees to go, but Lily feigns excitement about the offer. Another flashback to the previous year. Blair helps her dad Harold make dinner while Serena sits in the kitchen. Serena brings... I like how they freeze frame in this. Like, when they cut to this flashback, Serena's throwing food at Blair, and that's when they freeze frame. Like, they literally chose the worst time to freeze frame to the previous year title card for this episode. Serena throws something at Blair, and as Blair is receiving it, they just flash the freeze frame in the previous year title cards. It's like, why would you freeze frame like that? That's the funniest thing to freeze frame. I'll probably have to put it at the end, but that's the... Yeah, that'll be at the end of the episode, that freeze frame, because that's the funniest freeze frame I have seen. Or it'll probably be in this section, but still. Funniest freeze frame. Eleanor brings in an empty canapé tray, whatever that means. I don't know how to say that. But Blair says she isn't hungry because she has a lot to them when Harold made them earlier. Eleanor whispers to Harold whether he thinks that's wise because he reminds her that Blair has been fine for 2 months now, and he assures her that it'll be okay. And Eleanor asks the icon of icons, Dorota, in this flashback, to set another place at the table for the male model named Roman. Of course, Dorota is an icon, and she shall be treasured. She tells Harold not to do anything with this one and walks out of the room. Of course, we know now that Harold did do something with the male model Roman. So yeah, something must have happened to break them up. He must have cheated on her. Like, literally, I guess Harold was unfaithful to Eleanor and cheated on her with Roman, his boyfriend. But still, it's so weird. Just so weird. She asks Harold did not do anything and walks out with this one and walks out of the room. Melanie arrives in the kitchen and greets everyone. Blair takes Serena upstairs and puts her in a bath to sober her up while he asks Harold with a pie. He agrees and they head upstairs with Blair happily helps her dad. In the present, Blair emerges from upstairs to help the caterer setting everything dinner in the foyer. She asks Eleanor what's going on and wonders where Harold is. Eleanor explains that he isn't coming because he has too much work in Paris, meaning either his job or Ramon. She tells Blair to put on a different dress and go back upstairs, go back directing the caterers. Yeah, that's terrible. At the palace, Eric and Serena asks Lily if she's sure she wants them to go if she's sick. She encourages them to go until knock on the door. Serena opens to find room delivery service on the other side, and Lily admits she lied about being sick. Dan and Sweet explain what Lily did. He tells her that she doesn't have a choice, and he replies that she'll get dressed if he stops talking. When she's out of the earshot, she calls Rufus and leaves a message saying that her kids don't know about their history, and she would like to keep it that way, and she asks if she goes seeing him and hangs up. At the wardrobe, the icons of icons, Dorota helps Blair get dressed while she's venting about Harold. She tells her not telling her that he canceled. Icon Dorota advises her to call him herself. Advises Miss Blair to call Mr. Harold herself. And learn the real story about what happened. At the Archibalds, Nate, Anne, and Howard sit down for dinner. Anne makes constant remarks on Howard's arrest has begun affecting her place in high society. such as her not being asked back or asked to step down from several committees. Nate tells her to stop, but Howard says he doesn't need to fight his battles for him. Nate gets up, and when Nate asks where he's going, he answers anywhere but there. At the law, Jenny, Nate, Rufus, and Allison are playing together when Dan arrives at the Vanderwoods Inn. Dan introduces Allison and Serena before getting to Lily, who awkwardly says Happy Thanksgiving. Dan arrives home and explains how he... Actually, in the past, Dan arrives home and explains how the pie he bought for was run over when he saved Serena. Allison mentions Rufus was also into blonde, but dangerous and troubled one. Past Dan wonders how she was dangerous, but Allison alludes to her statement not being about herself. It was about Lily. Yeah, even in the past, Allison's mentioned about Lily. In the present, the adults play it off and act like they don't know each other. Rufus delegates chores to Serena, Dan, Eric, and Jenny before leaving to the kitchen with Lily and Allison. Lily says she didn't know Allison's back, and Allison asks why would she know. She explains that Dan didn't mention it, and she tried to call beforehand. Rufus says he didn't hear the phone, and Allison agrees to let it go to celebrate Thanksgiving. Lily asks if they wouldn't mind keeping their past on the down low, as Dan calls them to the table. At the Waldorf, Eleanor whispers to Blair that she hasn't touched her food. She asks what's wrong, and Blair demands to know if she called Harold and lied about that she didn't want to see him because she was so angry for leaving. Of course, Eleanor denies it at first, but then stops when Blair reveals that she knows what she did. Eleanor tells her that she wants to discuss it further. They can have guests after their guests leave. Blair either has to eat or leave the table. Blair chooses to leave as she gets up. Eleanor offers her dessert, realizing Harold's pie she made is gone. She asks where it is, and Eleanor answers that the caterer must have brought somebody to serve them. She gave the pie to the doorman. Blair suggests apple, so apple pie and goes off to the kitchen, where she slams the pie on the table. Icon Dorota and the rest of the catering team accuse themselves to leave her alone. She grabs a fork and begins to eat the pie. Of course, kind of alluding that Blair kind of has an eating disorder. This is never it's ever brought up again. But yeah, it's kind of weird. This kind of implies that Blair could have an eating disorder. This is never brought up again. As she flashes back to different episodes of binging and purging, when she's dining the whole thing, she runs to her reflection and goes upstairs. Back at the loft, Dan asks Lily what Thanksgiving were like when she was growing up, as Lily expressed how she was raised in Montecito, California, on a ranch. Serena gets a call from Blair. We do learn more about Lily's backstory in season 2, episode 24, The Valley Girl, which was supposed to be an episode, which was supposed to be a backdoor pilot to a young Lily spin-off series that ended up not coming to fruition. So we will get that episode in season 2. But yeah, just knowing that we could have had before the Gossip Girl reboot that we got, we could have had a Lily spin-off show about what it was like, what Lily was like during her teenage years. It's kind of interesting to know, but still. Serena gets a call from Blair, worried about her. She tells everyone that she's going to immediately and leaves the loft, telling Eric and Lily to stay when she's gone. Jane asks if she has any horses. Lily says yes, and she has one she named Rosewood that she really loved. Dan and Jane remember that Rufus had a song called Rosewood, and it was about a perfume that Allison wore, and it was rose and scandalwood. Allison Drew says that she's a fool, and literally, then Rufus tries to assure her she's not a fool. Lily says she never told Rufus about her horse, so it's just a coincidence. Dan asks why they talk like they know each other, and Rufus admits that they did know each other a long time ago. Jane asks how, and they exchange looks and silence. It becomes clear how Allison excused herself to get some air. Dan follows, and Jane and Eric also excuse themselves, leaving room in the past. In Blair's bedroom, Nate runs the bath for Serena. However, she gets a hold of the nozzle and begins spraying him with water. They get into a water fight, which comes to a pause when Burr comes into and knows what they're doing. They spray her with water and they all laugh together as they play. In the present, elsewhere outside, Nate sits alone and debates whether to call Serena or Blair, but chooses not to doubt either. At the Waldorf, Serena finds Blair on the floor of her bathroom, tear-stained and sad after purging. She admits that she didn't mean for it to happen, and Serena says she didn't see Harold downstairs. She asks why. She asks if she wants to get out of the apartment, which she agrees to. Meanwhile, Dan and Allison take a walk and explains her feud with Lily, and that she's always jealous because she knows Lily was Rufus's first great love. Back at the law, Lily excuses herself of letting her walk into the situation and deserves to find out more about Allison's homecoming in a better way. He said he didn't know what he owes her because they never define what they mean to each other. She says now's the right time, and he says that he knows what the time is together recently means, but he shouldn't say it. He continues to say she's one of his oldest friends, and she says that that's not how it feels when he kissed her at Eleanor's party. Of course, Allison walks in at that very moment and asks Dan to excuse them. After Archibald, Nate arrives home to talk to Howard. He goes to his study and see if he's there, but he finds him lying unconscious and changes into a dry clothes. Wait. Okay, and he yells at Anne to call unconscious on the ground, and he yells at Anne to call 911 right away. In the past, Blair, Serena, and Nate change into dry clothes and return to the party downstairs. In the background, Howard argues on the phone with someone, which Nate overhears. He asks Anne who he's talking to, and Anne explains that it's something going on with his latest deed. Lady's dead. Lady's deed. After hanging up, Howard comes over and says he wants to get it off. For what? Anne tells him no, but explains that he is a partner that closes a deal. If the partner closes a deal without him, he won't receive any commission. After Howard still tells him that he shouldn't leave and offers him to stay to compensate for the missing commission, angry, Howard replies that he lost his appetite and walks away. In the present, at the hospital, Nate and Anne wait for news about Howard. Anne reasons that Howard probably took some Vicodin to help with the headache and drank some whiskey, forgetting that he shouldn't. Nate doesn't buy this, of course, and reminds her that the doctor was clear that he overdosed on a pain pill. Anne orders him to stop blaming her for everything, since all she's done is try to make his life easier. He adds that her father, William Vanderbilt, set Howard up for his own firm, bought her house, their Hampton house, and their boat. But Howard never actually had to earn a dime to be wealthy as he is. She finishes, all she had to do was put on a suit, go to work, and not get arrested. She finishes that all he had to do was put on a suit, go to work, and not get arrested. But he couldn't even manage to do that. Nate says they can't keep ignoring the problem, or they might lose them for good. At the moment, the nurse enters in the room and tells Anne that Howard's awake and asking for her. Nate stands go. Anne says she'll go, but Nate tells her he's going instead. At the law, Rufus, Lily, and Allison discuss the kid. Allison's reaction to it. While they argue, Serena re-enters the law with Blair. And meanwhile, in Dan's room, Jenny, Dan, and Eric discuss whether or not they could be related. Serena and Blair go in, and they all fill them in on what went down when Serena left. Serena says it's just too much for her to handle on an empty stomach, and they decide to sneak out of the apartment via the fire escape. In the living room, Allison says that the emotional affairs are just as bad as physical ones. She says that if Rufus tells Rufus that if Lily's in his life, they won't be able to fix their marriage. She asks him to choose between her and Lily. but his mate was silent. Meanwhile, Blair, Serena, Dan, and Eric and Jenny go to the diner as they're eating and talking. Lily comes in and Eric asks if she's okay, and Serena asks if she wants to go home. She says not yet, and they order some French fry. Blair, Dan, and Jenny take the opportunity to leave them alone. They take off. They share a cab, which Dan drops Jenny off back at Brooklyn first. Once they get out of the car, they meet with Rufus and Allison. And ask Rufus and Allison, who ask if they want to play some touch football. As they walk to the park, Dan tells Rufus that his not telling him about Lily wasn't cool. Rufus admits that he's right and he should have told about her, and asks if he left it with Lily, and Rufus answers that she won't be coming back anytime soon, as he and Allison need to figure out their relationship out with her around. At the Waldorf, Blair finds Eleanor, who apologizes for what she did. She confesses that Harold sent her divorce papers, and she just couldn't handle seeing him in the holiday because she was so surprised at how the divorce made her feel. At the hospital, Nate tells Howard they know the divorce was an accident. Despite how he and Anne act, they do need him alive there for them. At dinner, Nate and Anne leave in the past. After dinner, Nate and Anne leave the Waldorf. Howard gives them a plate for food, and Howard and Nate kisses Blair goodnight. As they leave, Lily and Eric emerge. They greet each other, and Serena asks her to the chair. Serena is sleeping soundly. Lily asks if she must have had too much turkey, which Blair smiles at. They wake her up, and the very Wardens leave. Afterwards, Harold and Eleanor bring out some tea, and they sit with Blair, where they talk together happily. At the law, everyone knows Dan's dragged by someone, and Alice jokes that if he's still thinking about his dream girl. And Jenny asks if she keeps dreaming, maybe someday she'll know his name. And if she does, he'll have something to be thankful for, and they laugh. In the present, at the diner, Lily, Eric, and Serena laugh together as they talk and eat. At the Waldorf, Eleanor and Blair drink tea and eat cookies while they talk in the kitchen. In Brooklyn, at Park, Dan, Jane, Rufus, and Allison play football in the sun as the sun sets and ends up in a family hug on the ground. Wow, really good episode. We got a past story, we got a present story, we got Rufus finally cutting off contact with Lily. We got the Vanderwoods and the Humphreys finding out what about how how Lily and Rufus used to date, and what does that mean for them? What does that mean for them? Are they related in some way? Of course not. Of course they're not related. I also love how Eric says in this episode that he has roots. That was my favorite moment of the episode. Eric just saying he has roots. That is amazing. That's amazing. But anyway, that's it for this video. But anyway, yeah. Next episode, we have High Society. The first Princess Serena's grandma. Don't like her. She's manipulative. She's a liar. And I don't like her. But we'll have to get into why in the next episode of Gossip Girl, Season 1, Episode 10, High Society. See you next time. And remember, you know you love me. XOXO, Gossip Girl. And take it away, Eric. Say your line again, bro. That was hilarious. Say, Eric.
Ignore my roots.
And who am I? That's not a secret I'll never tell. You know you love me. XOXO. Gossip Girl.
What's up? Today we got Gossip Girl, Season 2, Episode 11, The Magnificent Archibalds. This episode starts off at Constant, with Blair complaining to Serena about how Cyrus's family being in town for Thanksgiving, and that the Roses as a family has a restaurant Thanksgiving dinner. Also, she sadly mentions how Harold isn't coming into town, but she still wants to try to make the perfect holiday. She invites Serena to come, but Serena's to help bake her pie next day before dinner. Serena says she'll only help for a few hours because Aaron is coming to meet her family. Dan approaches them at the moment and asks if either of them has seen Jenny, because Rufus hasn't been unable to get hold of her. Serena says she has been at the Vanderwoods penthouse, so Vanderwoods apartment lately. And Dan asks her to encourage her to talk to Rufus. They wish her a good they wish each other a good holiday and part way. While walking away, he bumps into Nate, but Nate totally ignores him. Or Dan ignores Nate, or Nate ignores Dan. Afterwards, Nate runs into Chuck, who asks why he hasn't been around lately. He asks if he cares, and Chuck says he thought having nothing would teach Nate who his real friends are. Nate answered, it has, and he walks away. Meanwhile, Jenny and Eric meet with a lawyer who get more information on the emancipation. She explains that after their request is filed, the state can open up an investigation into Jenny's home life to find proof of parental wrongdoing. Jenny takes the papers to authorize the investigation and leave with Eric. At the law, Dan asks Jenny what she's doing for Thanksgiving. She says she's going to spend it by herself, eating a frozen dinner, and he invites her to come over, but says she doesn't want to see Jenny. But she doesn't want to see Jenny. Dan assures her that Jenny isn't coming, and says that she's been spending a lot of time with. She isn't even spending it with Nate either. Vanessa then accepts his invitation. Rufus bursts in at that moment, and Rufus bursts in randomly in that moment, and said that Agnes's mother hasn't seen Jenny either because Agnes has been away for a modeling gig. Yeah, that's their explanation for why she doesn't show up for the rest of who knows how long. They go to call the cops, but Dan tells him about Jenny spending time with Eric. At the Vanderwoods, the Lincoln Bar arrive early from vacation. As they walk in, they get the call from Rufus, who wants to know where Jenny is, if Jenny's been there past week. Confused, Lily says she's sure she hasn't been, then notices her things piled up on the couch, and asks Rufus to call him. To call her back, and hangs up. Meanwhile, Nate and Ann enter an apartment owned by a friend who is away at the time. They enter and they're greeted by Howard, who has returned from Dominica. He explains how good his life is now, and he wants the two of them to join him. Yeah, right, Howard. He explains how, Ann admits that she knew about the invitation and to come with him and wants to go. Only if Nate goes as well. Howard pleads with Nate to come, but Nate doesn't answer. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Lily and Rufus take a walk, where she tells them everything she found out, including that Eric must have been sneaking Jenny in, and even Serena wasn't even aware. Rufus asks to talk to Jenny, but Lily asks to talk to her first and find out what's going on with her. Rufus mulls it over and agrees to let Lily speak with Jenny. That night at the Waldorf, Blair directs the icon of icons, Dorota, to make on the great character of the show, the icon Dorota, to making Howard's pie. While on the phone with Serena, who's with Aaron, but concerned about the fidelity. Blair warns her with his fidelity. Blair warns her to put herself first, and Serena tells her to be more open to status as tradition. At the Vanderwoods, Eric tries to find Bart in his apartment. He immediately gets a text from Jenny. He immediately texts Jenny not to come up yet. As Bart and Lily arrive at Marley, however, he hears her phone buzz ring, and she left it there. He's able to swipe it before Bart can see it, and listens and asks if he knows a boy named Ben Shern. Eric asks if he's the captain of Johnson's swim team, and Bart replies that he should ask Johnson what he's doing Monday night. Eric then sees Chuck in his room and asks why would Bart know what Johnson is doing. Eric explains that like him, Bart has a PI on retainer at all time. Eric says that that's kind of creepy to hold over your friends and family. Chuck assures him that Bart's people were quietly on the down low. Eric asks what exactly Bart knows about him, and Chuck asks how much he really wants to know. Meanwhile, in Aaron's studio, Aaron announces to Serena over a home-cooked meal that he's officially only dating her. Personally surprised at the news, Serena says that if she knew they were celebrating, she would have brought champagne. He says he's glad she didn't, because he's completely sober, and he wants to be around people with the same mindset. She lies and says that while she used to party, she doesn't anymore, and Aaron is glad to hear that. At the Vinderwoods, Bart tells the lady that the kids should tell them things before they get caught, and that she should ground Eric. She argues this, and says the situation is extreme. But as they talk, Eric comes out and tries to leave. Eric tells them they know Jane's been staying there, and he should bring her up so they can talk. At the Waldorf, Blair goes down to the kitchen to find Cyrus eating a slice of her pie. After a brief conversation, she runs into Eleanor and tries to explain that she feels Cyrus is taking over everything. Blair tells her that the three of them are a family now, and she needs to get with the program quickly. Blair runs upstairs and bumps into the icon Dorota. After talking with her, she learns that Mr. Cyrus is going to propose to Miss Eleanor. Mr. Cyrus proposed to Miss Eleanor. Mr. Cyrus proposed that Darren and Miss Eleanor, and they're planning to tell the whole family at the Thanksgiving dinner. Back at the Vanderwoods, Lily tells Jenny that she spoke to Rufus, and he needs to agree to let her stay with them for a few days. She offers to help her talk to him, and Jenny thanks her, but says that she has no idea how Rufus has been. Lily replies that she does belong at home with him for at least the next few years, and Jenny thanks her and excuses herself to get some rest. As she walks away, Lily sees her purse and grabs it to bring to her. As she does, she sees the papers from the lawyer, and she says Jenny is pursuing I was thinking so right before. Emancipation, there it is. I was thinking it's pursuing so good. Pursuing emancipation. The next day, Rufus and Dan grocery shop for dinner. Rufus admits that he misses Jenny a lot, and he's depressed that she isn't coming to dinner. Or is he talking about Allison? I think he's talking about Jenny. Who knows? They run to Aaron, who's picking up stuff to bring to the Vanderwoods, and Dan tries to talk to Aaron and makes comments about Serena's life being complicated, which Aaron doesn't understand or get. Well, while he tries to explain, he mentions the situation with Georgina. Aaron pretends to know what he's talking about, and he excuses himself and walks away. At the Waldorf, Blair tries to confront Eleanor by not telling her about the engagement for anyone else. Eleanor pretends that she doesn't know what she's talking about and goes to check the ref. Offended, Blair tells the icon Dorota that they're leaving since she clearly won't be missed when they leave the apartment. Meanwhile, Nate goes to the art gallery and returns a box set for Rufus. While there, he runs into Vanessa, who asks why he just didn't bring it to the law. Nate admits that Dan likes him about as much as she does, so he probably wasn't a good idea. Yeah, he admits that Dan isn't really a fan of his right now, and he doesn't really like him right now. And he admits that he's somehow alienating everyone in his life and asks her to give said to Rufus. She tells her to take care of himself and walks away. After Vanderwood's, Serena makes Chuck promise to pay for Aaron, including that she's a party girl. Chuck deducts that she lied to Aaron about her past, but she denies doing that exactly. He gives her his word. She then goes upstairs to meet with Eric in Bart's sight. Aaron then arrives in the apartment and tells her that Dan said something about something weird about a girl named Georgina when she saw him. Nervously flustered, Serena chalks it up to Dan being jealous and tries to change the subject. At the loft, Rufus gets a call from Lily, who tells them that she has something important to talk about, and they should do it in person. When they hang up, Rufus tells Dan they're leaving and going to cancel his plans with Vanessa. At the gallery, Vanessa is about to finish her film when Dan calls, but is stopped by an FBI agent who wants to talk to her about Nate. Back to the Vanderwoods, Chuck helps Nate unlock Bart's safe, and while they look through it, Chuck gets a call from Vanessa, who tells him Nate seriously needs their help. Chuck initially blows it off, but then decides to take her seriously. He leaves Eric alone at safe. Once Chuck is gone, he discovers several thick files labeled with each of their names on it, with one with Serena's name and one with Lily's. Meanwhile, Bart and Icon Dorota wander the city aimlessly. Icon Dorota dodges a number of calls from Eleanor and then suggests that they should go. It's kind of funny that Icon Dorota's ringtone is "Slave for You" by Britney Spears. And knowing that Icon Dorota works for them and her theme song is "Slave for You" by Britney Spears is kind of weirdly funny. Are they trying to imply that Dorota is a slave for the Waldorfs? Because if she has a song called "Slave for You" by Britney Spears, are they trying to imply that because she has that Icon Dorota has that song, is because she's a slave for the Waldorfs? Don't know what that's trying to imply, but then she suggests that they should go feed ducks in park. So Blair thinks about it and decides that they can do it, but warns her that if she even looks like they're having a little fun, they're leaving. At the Vanderwoods, a caterer passes around glasses of champagne. Lily is surprised when Serena turns hers down, not knowing that she's doing so to impress Aaron. Upstairs, Eric shows Jenny the files and all the personal things they contain. Jenny apologizes for what he's going through and asks if he's seen her emancipation papers, which are suddenly missing. Lily calls up and tells them to come downstairs to be social. Downstairs, Dan and Rufus arrive. Bart is annoyed that Lily invited them but says nothing. Dan goes over to Aaron, who accuses him of Aaron accuses Dan of lying about Serena. Aaron accuses Dan of lying about Serena, and at the same time, Louis shows Rufus the papers and the emancipation papers, and Jenny's emancipation papers, and he's shocked. As he's asking where Jenny is, she comes downstairs in Serena's room. In Serena's room, Aaron and Dan come in. Dan asks what he lied about, and Serena answers that they should talk privately about who said who to whom. He falsely takes responsibility for lying, and Aaron tells him that, to be honest, if he's having a problem with his relationship with Serena. Of course, Dan knows the truth. He's just telling he's lying, so either to protect Serena or just protect Serena's relationship with Aaron. But it was nice of Dan to, even though he was telling the truth and telling him to be concerned about Serena's life, he basically was telling the truth about Georgina and trying to make Aaron basically be like, yeah, if you're going to be like someone with Serena, you should be concerned about what you're dealing with. Dan knows that too well. Aaron tells him to be honest about him having a problem with his relationship with Serena. Aaron then goes to leave to the Waldorf Thanksgiving, and Dan apologizes to Serena for throwing him under the bus like that. Dan gets over it and encourages Serena to tell Anna the truth because he'll find the truth out eventually. Eric then enters the room carrying all the files. At the gallery, Nate goes to meet Vanessa, Chuck, and the FBI agent. Vanessa explains the FBI knows Howard's in the city, and they're anticipating him committing crimes bigger than embezzlement and fraud, such as kidnapping and extortion. The agent explains that when Howard arrived in Jamaica, he had limited money that he wasted on living the way he always had, expensively. Now he's broke, and he asks why would Howard ask them to come with him if he had no money, because neither do they. At the moment, Chuck reminds him that the Vanderbilts do, and Nate wonders why would they be paying them all to live in Jamaica if they hate his dad. Vanessa reasons that maybe Howard's looking to be paid to leave without them. The agent confirms that Howard's been trying to get in touch with the Vanderbilts, and that they don't tell Nate, or Ann, he didn't tell Nate or Ann because they weren't sure. They didn't tell Nate or Ann because they weren't sure they were aware of what was going on. He leaves to get some privacy, and Nate admits that this is all too much. Nate admits that Vincent tells him that Howard can still get away if that's what he wants, but he also has the chance to end the drama with his father right now. He asks how, and Chuck answers that he could turn Howard in. At the Vanderwoods, Jen gives a brief history of her life the past few weeks while trying to explain to Rufus how she ended up there. She tells him that he's not angry anymore because he misses her too much. He loves her, and that he loves her. He finishes by saying that he'll give her what she wants and won't stand in the way of her emancipation. But she can't make him stop loving her. She says she's sorry as she takes the papers and leaves the apartment. Rufus then follows her out, and right after, Lily confronts Bart about the files that Eric Serena told her about. He tries to explain that they were trying to protect them, but Lily doesn't fall for it, and the three of them grab their coats and leave Bart alone in the apartment all by himself. Back at the Archibald, the family friend's apartment. Back at the Archibald family friend apartment, Nate arrives back to find Howard dashing to get everything ready for them to leave immediately. Nate asks if he thinks his plan of holding him in ransom is going to work. Howard confesses that that's not all the money would be for him, and that he's going to get some too. Nate says there are different ways to get his life back without committing crime, and the FBI is on their way over. He asks Howard to either be a man and turn himself in, or ruin their relationship forever by running away. Elsewhere, Eric and Lily eat fries at their annual Thanksgiving dinner. So Lily wonders what Aaron and Serena want to do, and Eric says that she was probably going to burn her file, which she took with her. She then admits that he read her file, and find out she was in a mental institution like he was. That Lily was in a mental institution like he was. Lily confesses that she's never been willing to talk about it, and that she's not, and that Eric says he's ready to talk about it when she's it. Lily asks if he's ready to have a real Thanksgiving dinner, and he asks what she has in mind. She mysteriously says that she has to come in with her, and they leave the dinner. At the Waldorf, Serena arrives to see Aaron, but finds everyone trying to find Blair. Eleanor asks her to find out where she is, which she does. Afterwards, she admits to Aaron that she lied. Not Dan. She lied about her past, and that Dan was telling the truth. She gives him her file to read, and he tells her to let her know if she still wants to be with him. She tells him to let her know if he still wants to be with her afterwards. Elsewhere, Blair and the icon Dorota wanted to cold and tear-stained Jenny into the street. She admits that what day she's brought, and Blair tells her that she's lucky because her dad loves her immensely. She talks about how her own family doesn't love her that much because they don't even care that she didn't come to dinner. Jenny, seeing Eleanor pull up in a cab, tells Blair that she's wrong about Eleanor not loving her. She's wrong about Eleanor not loving her that much. Eleanor comes up and asks Blair to come home with her so she can show her what she's been waiting to surprise her with. Blair thinks about it and agrees to go home, but only if Jenny goes to her home. Only if Jenny goes back to the loft. Eleanor agrees and that's a good idea and helps Jenny to the cab to drop her off. Back at the Archibald friend's house, Howard is being made his mind up, kisses Anne and hugs Nate. He says that he loves them both and opens the door to turn himself in. Anne cries for him not to and breaks down Nate's arms as Howard is escorted out by the agent. Later that night, Anne and Fisher got their house and possessions back. Chuck and Vanessa stop by to see him. Nate thanks them for both helping him out. Thanks them both for helping him out. Chuck gives them a loan, and Vanessa admits that she didn't want to see him leave town. Chuck confesses that she saw his feelings for him, but doesn't know how he feels about Jenny. Nate replies that he hasn't heard from Jenny in weeks, and asks if she wants to hang out sometime. She accepts and goes home. Chuck then approaches Nate and admits that he's glad he's staying too. Nate thanks him, and they decide to get drunk together. At the Waldorf, Blair arrives home with Eleanor to find Harold waiting for her. Shocked to see him, he conveniently asks if that was a surprise because she thought Eleanor's house were getting engaged. Emily turns them and Eleanor says they are, but she needed to get Harold's approval before she told anyone. Cyrus says it's time for the celebration and Harold brings out his famous pie. Blair smiles and says she's ready for some new traditions. At the loft, Dan and Rufus arrive to find Jenny waiting for them. She rips up the papers. She rips up the emancipation papers and tells Rufus that she loves him and doesn't want to not be his daughter. Three share a family hug. At the Vanderwoodsons, Erin brings Serena her file back and says that she doesn't need to read it. She doesn't need to read it because everything she wants to tell him she'll reveal on her own. He says that he wants to know her no matter what, and what she's done or how long ago. Back at the loft, Lily and Eric arrive. Rufus asks if they're done there, or are they doing there. Lily admits that she couldn't think of anywhere else that felt more like home. Vanessa also arrives, and she and Jenny make up. They all begin to cook Thanksgiving dinner. Dan tells Jenny that they've been keeping her mail in a pile. She decides to go through it later and goes to help Rufus. Vanessa notices a letter that came from Nate to Jenny. Elsewhere, Nate and Chuck ride in the limo, drinking and laughing. At the Vanderwoodsons, Erin and Serena happily talk together. In a different limo outside the Humphrey loft, Bart calls his PI Andrew Tyler and tells him that he wants to know why Lily was institutionalized. Back at the loft, Vanessa excuses herself to call her parents, but once she's alone, it's revealed that she stole the letter that Nate wrote to Jenny and reads it and learns that he once had real feelings for Jenny, but didn't know what to do about them because of the situation, ending the episode. Wow, this was a really good episode. It kind of seemed like Lily's gonna leave Bart. Rufus and Jenny finally made up. Erin was like, "Yes, Serena, I don't care what's in your file. I only care about what you. I don't care what's in your file. You'll tell me the truth when you're ready to." But Blair and Icon Dorado were amazing, and Harold came back to give Eleanor and Cyrus his blessing for Cyrus to marry Eleanor. But yeah, that's it for this video, and I'll see you next time for our next episode. It's a Wonderful Lie. But anyway, that's it for this video, and I'll see you next time for Gossip Girl, Season 2, Episode 12. You know you love me. XOXO, Gossip Girl.
She married Serena. And who am I? That's not a secret I'll never tell. You know you love me. XOXO, Gossip Girl.
What's up? We got what's up? We got Gossip Girl season 3, episode 11, Treasures of Serena Madre. This episode starts off with Rufus handing out tasks for Thanksgiving dinner. Lily announces that Serena is going to be volunteering at a soup kitchen for the holiday, and she would be rather buy a ready-made dinner instead of cooking. Rufus pretends to be okay with it, and Lily goes to order it when she's gone. Eric suggests that they invite the lying manipulative stalker grandma, Cece Rhodes, Cece, to come over via video chat so that she can be there without traveling. Rufus agrees says that's a great idea to invite the woman that completely dislikes him. But Eric goes to retrieve his laptop, with Jenny following closely behind. She asks if Jonathan can come, and he admits they broke up but won't say why, and afterwards she sends Jonathan a text asking if he would still want to come anyway. At Trips, Serena arrives and he tells her Maureen agreed for a divorce. Serena asks it what's the real reason, not wanting to be responsible. He assures her that it had nothing to do with her, and she insists that they can't be together until he's not married anymore. He asks if they should spend Thanksgiving together, and she replies that she had told Lily she had to work so she could be free. At the Empire Hotel, Blair and Chuck are heading out for a day while she complains about Eleanor's arrival and how she thinks she's keeping a secret from her. She announced her plan to figure out what it is before they go back to Paris together. And they run into Serena outside, who's looking for Nate. Blair denounces her and gets into the car. Blair quickly denounces Serena and is followed by Chuck. Upstairs, Nate and Dan talk over the threesome and Olivia leaving. Yeah, forever. Yeah, we all know Olivia left. Hilary Duff left the show, Dan. We get it. Dan explains how Olivia thinks she saw a certain look during, and Nate tells him to relax. Dan asks if he's going to be around for Thanksgiving and replies that he's had to William to avoid dealing with his feelings for Serena. When they hang up, Serena enters and asks if he wants to go for a walk. At the loft, Vanessa arrives to see Dan, saying she got into a fight with her mom and can't stay in dorms, and then asks if she can stay for a while, and he agreed. At the Vanderwoods, Rufus and Eric video chat the lying stalker grandma, and ask her to be present for the dinner, but she replies that she's fine and she's willing to make a trip to see them. Blair, she asks them to keep it as a surprise and hangs up. At the Waldorf, Blair arrives home and finds the icon Dorota avoiding calls from Vanya while looking through the mail. Blair finds a fake envelope addressed to Eleanor from her attorney and realizes Eleanor is changing her will. Before they can open it, Eleanor arrives and takes the envelope away. Elsewhere outside, Nate confronts Serena about Tripp's divorce. And they admit they did kiss, but she doesn't intend to take it any further. When they talk, Tripp calls to cancel their plans for Thanksgiving because Maureen was a mess when she arrived and wants to spend the holiday together. Serena hangs up and asks Nate if he has plans for Thanksgiving and asks him to come to Lily. Meanwhile, Lily runs into Maureen on the street and they're surprised they're wearing the same coat. Lily asks why Tripp says Serena working on Thanksgiving, and Maureen, obviously knowing that's a lie, plays along and says his schedule has been busy lately. Lily asks if they'd be willing to have Thanksgiving with them, and Maureen accepts the invitation. Oh no, Lily, the last Thanksgiving, Dan not even invited you guys to his house, not knowing the rivalry between his mom and Lily. And now Lily is inviting Maureen and Tripp to her house, not knowing of Serena and Tripp's relationship. Wow, this is a very good retread of season 1, episode 11. And this is season 3, episode 11. Wait, no, that was season 3, episode 9. Season 3, episode 9. And this is season 3, episode 11. Wow. Basically a retread, but different storyline. The difference. At the loft, Vanessa tells Dan that she and her mother are fighting over the holidays and she doesn't have anyone to vent about since Olivia left. We get it, Vanessa. Hilary Duff left the show. We get it. She asks if he talked to her since she left, and Dan says no. She notices that she's been quiet and asks to give her a weird look, and he keeps giving her a weird look. Before they can talk more, Gabriella arrives to make things right with Vanessa. She apologizes for earlier and says Rufus invited them to come for dinner. Vanessa agrees to go with her to give her one last shot, but that's it. At the Empire, Serena runs into Trip, who wants to talk since she's avoiding his call. He informs her that him and Marina are invited to Lily, and they'll be seeing each other the next day after all. Serena is shocked and asks if that's weird, and he says all he cares about is spending time with Serena, and they pull an emergency button to make out. Emergency stop button to make out. At Waldorf, Blair is trying to find out what's in Eleanor. The icon! Dorota comes back from the store, and Eleanor says she's headed to bed. She grabs the Eleanor, but Blair suggests Eleanor they spend the Thanksgiving with the Vanderwoods. Eleanor agrees to call Lily and ask about leave the room with Eleanor. Blair complains to the icon that she knows that there's a secret in the envelope. She notices her clutching her bag really close and grabs it and finds a pregnancy test inside, and then realizes Eleanor's pregnant. At the Empire, Chuck tells Nate that he found out from his security team that Serena stopped the elevator to make out. Nate realizes that he isn't leaving Marina over the scandal, and Chuck confirms that by telling Serena that he can leave when he wants. Nate needs to find someone to get through to her, and Chuck goes to his room. When he's gone, Nate calls security. Next day, Lily is surprised when the lying, manipulative stalker Cece, Grandma Cece, shows up for dinner right after she does. Gabriella, Vanessa, and Dan arrive. Out of earshot, Cece tells Lily that everyone, especially her and Rufus, seem to have a lot to talk about. Outside, Blair tries to trick Eleanor into revealing her pregnancy or catching a symptom. She tells Eleanor that she's nauseous, but answers that she's just jet-lagged. Chuck reveals he brought her favorite champagne, but Eleanor realizes she is in the mood for it. Upstairs, Eleanor and Trip and Marina arrive and are greeted by Serena. When Marina goes to say hi to Nate, Trip tells Serena that the hardest part is over and they can get through it together. After Chuck, Blair, and Eleanor arrive, Blair is surprised to see Trip, and she walks off with Eleanor. And Chuck tells Serena and Trip that if they ever play grab ass in his elevator again, that he'll have no choice, but Serena will be kicked out of the hotel. Meanwhile, Nate and Marina talk, and she asks if Trip's having an affair, and Nate admits he is, but he has a way they can end it quickly and quietly. He shows her that he has a tape, and she's willing to see it if it ends their relationship. Elsewhere, Jenny pulls Blair aside and demands to know what happened with Cotillion, and Blair asks what she's talking about. Jenny says Johnny then texts her saying he's surprised she and Eric are still friends after what happened that night, but reveals that it was all Eric's plan. Eric's plan was solid. Stealing her escort, leaving her alone on stage, was all his idea. And of course, Jenny is shocked that Eric is supposed to be her best friend, came up with a plan to try to humiliate her. Of course, Rufus then calls everyone to the table before dinner starts. Lily sees Rufus and Cece talking, and of course is mad that Cece there, so she decides to leave. Excuse herself. Gabriel asks Cece the details on Lily and Rufus' wedding, and Lily says she wasn't there because Rufus didn't want her there. He says Lily was too sick to travel, but Cece says Cece's been on a mission since August. Confused, Rufus reminds her that Lily didn't come home until October, and she quickly recants. She's like, well, okay. She probably doesn't know what she's talking about. Yeah. You say that, you lying manipulator, stalker, Grandma. Vanessa tells Dan that her mother always sticks her nose. Vanessa tells Dan her mom always sticks her nose and everyone's business. But Dan defends Gabriella and asks her again about the face. But she directs it at Jenny, who takes the opportunity to blame Eric, and she reveals she knows what happened to Tilly, and he doesn't deny it. On the other side of the table, Maureen asks Trip and Serena how can they be so happy despite doing such a bad thing. Nate tells her to quiet down, but she reveals that she has a copy of the tape and will release it unless they end the affair. Chuck realizes Nate stole the tape from the hotel while she's showing it to them. Lily looks over Serena's shoulder and realizes she's been asleep. Lily, unbeknownst to Serena, Lily is looking over Serena's shoulder and sees shows the tape of Serena making out with Trip. Jane excuses stuff from the table, followed by Blair, then Vanessa, then Cece. Then Cece tells Rufus she's glad she was invited because this Thanksgiving is basically going into chaos, and Cece is loving every minute of it. Upstairs, Serena tries to explain things to Lily, who asks if she's known what it's like to be left. Serena tells her it's not like that since Trip really cares about her. Lily replies that she's hurting someone who believes the exact thing, and finished by saying that she isn't welcome in their home again until she ends it. Yeah, basically saying that, Serena, basically she won't be able, Lily basically says that, Serena isn't welcome in their home until she ends the affair. In the apartment until she ends. In Jenny's room, Eric tells her that she's lost any right to honesty when she chose being queen over their friendship. He explains Johnson was sick of his constant trying to excuse her behavior, and when he tried to take her down, hoping she could be taken down once and for all, she realized what she'd become. She replies that he lost Jonathan because he tried to oust her, and he realized he lost everything and it's her fault. Finally, he says that she may have told Kira to watch her back, but he's telling her that Jenny may have told Kira to watch her back, but now he's telling Jenny to watch her back. Yep, basically. In the lobby, Blair is eating a pie alone when Eleanor comes down and tells her that she isn't pregnant, but she is moving to Paris full-time as Cyrus Bobby's penthouse. Blair asks who the pregnancy test was for, and they're approached by Vanya, who asks why the icon Dorota is avoiding him. They realize that Dorota is the one who's pregnant, and upstairs, Gabriella tells Rufus that it's weird Lily wasn't honest about Cece going into her mission. He excuses himself, and Vanessa tells her again to stop butting into people's business, but she reminds her that of the time she bought them tickets to a show and spent the whole time talking to a homeless man instead of spending time with her. Gabriel reminds that she cares about people, but is starting to think coming was a mistake and she should leave. Vanessa agrees and she does so. Serena comes downstairs and breaks up a Trip, apologizing to Maureen, and later goes to Blair to sit with her in her old room. Chuck fills her in on what happened and they make up. Blair asks her to come to Paris with her for the weekend. Serena decides to go and they find her passport. Upstairs, Rufus asks Lily why she stayed with Cece when she was better instead of coming home. Lily admits that while she was sick, Cece became kind and loving, and she wanted to enjoy her company while she could, and lied because she felt selfish leaving him alone with the kid. Cece then enters, overhearing, and Lily and Rufus goes to clear the table. Lily thanks her, and Cece asks if he knows about Lily's little trip. Lily says no, and Cece reminds her that not all secrets can stay hidden. Downstairs, Eleanor and Blair give the icon Dorota a plate off for Vanya, and tells her that she needs to go talk to Vanya down right away, and they send her down and wish her luck. At the loft, Dan catches Gabrielle leave, but before she leaves, he tells her that Vanessa is giving and kind the same way she is, and that she's truly an amazing person. Gabrielle tells Dan that he's in love with Vanessa and it's all over his face. Vanessa comes in and lets them talk alone. Back at the Vanderwoods, Tripp confronts Nate about revealing the affair, saying he's angry that he could lose everything. Nate replies that just now realizing he's losing everything makes him pretty sure he did the right thing. Tripp leaves and Chuck comes up to Nate. Chuck asks why didn't he tell him the truth, and Nate says he did, and that Serena is someone who would sacrifice everything to be with her. Chuck asks if that includes stealing a tape from his best friend's business, and then advises him to tell her how he feels, tell her to give her a chance to be with a guy who deserves her. Upstairs, Serena is reading through her safe to find her passport. Before she can, Tripp comes upstairs to tell her that he doesn't care about leaving Marine or his career, since all he cares about is Serena. He tells her that he's going to be downstairs and tells her to join. Blair admits that she doesn't think he had it in him, and Serena asks what she should do. Blair tells her to go, and they hug. Before she closes the safe, she spots a letter addressed to her from her father, postmarked from weeks ago. Eleanor calls up Blair and tells Serena to go if she can be alone. She begins reading the letter and heads downstairs to the elevator. Lily asks where she's going since everyone's gone. Serena tells her that Tripp is leaving Marine and that they're going away together. Lily tells her that she's still responsible for breaking up a marriage and it's a huge mistake. Serena asks her what does Lily know about mistakes and hands her the letter before leaving. Back at the law, Gabrielle excitedly tells Dan that she and Vanessa are on good terms and moving into a hotel for the weekend. Dan offers to let them stay, and she decides to give him advice. She tells him that unless he's sure he wants to be with Vanessa, because their friendship won't survive another heartbreak. Vanessa emerges from the back and says Paul Hoffman's taxi asking if she and Gabrielle want to meet him and his parents for a drink. She asks him if he wants to go, and Gabrielle asks if Dan does. Dan says yes, and since Vanessa really likes him, she tells Vanessa they'll go. Back at the Vanderwoods, Nate catches Serena before she leaves and begs her not to go, revealing his feelings, but Serena debates it, but ultimately chooses to leave a trip. Back at the law, Vanessa and Gabrielle leave for the hotel. On the way out, Vanessa hugs Dan and thanks him for everything. Back at the Vanderwoods, the icon Deruda tells Vanya that she's pregnant with his baby, and he's overjoyed. Upstairs, Eric texts Kira that Jane knows about Cotillion, and they need to strike as soon as possible. In the coat closet, Lily reads the letter, but quickly shouts it aside when Rufus comes down looking for her. He asks where the wedding album is, and she notices she looks weird. She asks if he's okay. He asks if she's okay, and she says yes. Downstairs, and then goes to get it. Downstairs, Blair, Chuck, and Eleanor leave to get in a car for airport. He knows his heartbroken and asks if she minds if she stays. She kisses him and leaves with Eleanor and goes over to Nate and offers to get drunk with him, and they walk it out. In the car, Serena and Tripp leave the city together, and back at the Vanderwood, Marine gets her coat she forgot when she left, and she asks the icon Dorota to tell Rufus and Lily everything was wonderful and gets into the elevator. Right after she does, she discovers the letter from Dr. Vanderwood's in Lily's coat pocket. Ooh, yep, she mistook her coat for Lily's because they look exactly similar, and now she has the letter from Dr. Vanderwood's from Will Vanderwood's that Lily put into her coat pocket. Okay, that's episode 11. Treasure of Serena Madre. Serena and Tripp are now together. Serena chose to basically confront her mom about lying about the letter from her dad. Nate basically gave out his heart to Serena, but she rejected him for his cousin. It's revealed that Eleanor wasn't pregnant. The icon Dorota is with Vanya's baby. 4. Lily is hiding stuff from Rufus about why she actually stayed. It wasn't because Cece was sick. It was another reason. But there was another reason why she stayed. Because Cece was in a remission So why did Lily stay all that time? She says because it was her She said it was because she wanted to stay because her mom became kind and loving, but that's bullcrap. That's bullcrap. Cece Rhodes is not kind and loving. That is not her. She's a lying, manipulative, stalker grandma. So there must be another reason. And when Cece said, did she tell Rufus about Lily's little trip? What is she talking about? So yeah, that was it for this video. And I'll see you next time for Season 3, Episode 12, The Departed. See you next time. You know you love me. XOXO, Gossip Girl.
Hi, Jenny.
Hi. Hi, I'm Jenna.
What?
And, Jenny used up all the invites.
Jenny, that dress would look even better in black.
Nothing. Doesn't matter because Dad said I can't go. Black. Cool.
What do you mean you're going home? Nobody ever leaves a sleepover.
Well, I guess there's first for everything.
The first day of a new queen's reign.
Hey, Jenny, is there anything we can do for you?
I'm sorry. My family's in investment banking. They're all broke.
You can go.
It is highly unlikely that I will ever forgive you for going to Nate. But if you walk away from me now, I will also ruin you.
Hope you don't expect a hug.
I don't expect anything anymore.
How are you gonna do that?
You never did.
Really, Vanessa? Lying and seeing Nate behind my back? You know, I don't know what's more pathetic, that I wanted to be one of you or that I was actually scared of you.
You're not like those girls, Jenny.
Like I said, the mean girls don't control anything.
Blair, wake up. You're not queen anymore.
How do we keep her from making a choice?
We don't. We make it for her. Take off your clothes and take out your credit card.
And the forces of evil are just getting started.
Catch.
In life, the young queen becomes
out
a
of my room.
tyrant.
Well, since you apparently love your new bag more than your old friends, I guess you can carry it. Across the street. Enjoy being BFFs with a hunk of leather.
What were you thinking?
Well, maybe we should change that. I'll see you guys around.
I'm sorry,
Sorry, Blair.
but this child seems to be the only one that can design anything that the buyers are remotely interested in.
The only reason I survive in it.
She married her country. Forget boys. Keep your eye on the prize, Jenny Humphrey. You can't make people love you, but you can make them fear you.
And when that happens, maybe I'll think about coming home. But for now, goodbye, good riddance, and good luck.
No. Hey, Blair. Since I'm Queen of Constance and Graham Collins wants to be my escort, I don't think I need you as my mentor anymore.
The cycle of abuse must be broken. The monarchy ends tonight.
Jenny, you're lucky to have me. Don't push it.
Well, anytime I can combine styling with revenge.
Your era's over. You're dead.
Where are you going?
I'll be waiting for you downstairs. Let's just get this over with.
Yeah, but this can't be what you want.
Like you care what I want. You're my queen.
Where the hell were you?
Secrets Jenny amassed when she was trying to protect you, Nellie? Well, now the world knows them too. So it looks like we have a winner. Now, if you don't mind.
How can you do this? Letting some girl from Brooklyn carry on our legacy?
Goodbye, Jenny from Brooklyn.
Haven't you ever heard of a foreign queen?
You know, you really put yourself on the radar tonight. Better not make that mistake again or you'll pay for real.
She answering. And who am I? That's not a secret I'll never tell. You know you love me. XOXO. Gossip Girl.
What's up? And what? What's up? We got Gossip Girl, Season 4, Episode 10, Gaslit. And now we got Jenny's final episode. So, yeah, this episode starts off with Blair telling the icon, Dorota, how she's excited to spend Thanksgiving in Paris with Harold and Ramon. The icon, Dorota, is suspicious that Blair is leaving to avoid Serena and Chuck. So she tells her she made a great pumpkin pie so she can drop off at Vanda Woodson's as a peace offering. Blair refuses initially, but then is like, okay, I'll agree to go. At the Vanda Woodson's, Eric emerges from his room to find a large table and set and wonders who's all invited. He asks Rufus, who just answers that Lily wanted to put all the stops. Eric mentions that he hasn't heard from Serena since the party and he wants to go to the Waldorf to talk to her. Lily forbids him, saying that they can talk once Serena grows up and stops throwing tantrums. But technically this wasn't all Serena's fault. That's with Juliet. Elsewhere, Dan and Vanessa are grocery shopping, and Vanessa is wearing the weirdest outfit, the worst outfit that I've ever seen on this show. It was so bad that Watch Mojo created a top 10 worst Gossip Girl outfits. And the outfit that Vanessa wears in this episode was the thumbnail. So yeah, you know if you wear a bad outfit, when even Watch Mojo creates a video about your worst outfit. I don't know what Vanessa was thinking. Yeah. And they agree to go to the Vanderbilts dinner together. Outside, Nate confirms his plans to visit his dad before going to the Vanderbilts for dinner. Howard is sad that not having seen Anne for a while and wishes for a chance to show her how much he's changed. After him, Nate arrives home and finds the family lawyer with papers. Nate snaps him and takes the envelope and is surprised to see that, Anne is trying to divorce Howard. So, at the Vanderwoodsons, both Chuck and Blair see each other and agree to be civil at Little Run-In. After talking to Lily for a minute, all three realize Serena is missing and hasn't been seen since the party. Serena wakes up in a hotel room surrounded by empty bottles of alcohol and pills. She dials 911 and passes out again, but before she can explain further than not knowing where she is or how she got there. At Archibald, Nate tells Dan that his mom that Anne filed for divorce. He vents about being confused, and Dan tells him that he should accept his parents might be happy or separated, and that it can't come as a total shock. After the conversation, Dan gets a call from Rufus telling him Serena is in the hospital and asks him not to tell anyone outside the family. Dan obliges. At the hospital, no one knows anything other than about her phone call and drugs were involved. Lily goes to get coffee, and Rufus calls Jenny to ask her to come to the city for support. Of course, him not knowing that Jenny is already in the city, she agrees to go and get on the next train. But of course, she's already in the city. So, at the Vanderwoods, Vanessa arrives to find the icon. The icon Dorota is sitting alone at the apartment. Why did you bring Dorota with you, Blair? She's an icon. So she asks what's going on, and Dorota tells her, call Mr. Rufus. Before she gets a call from Jenny telling her they messed up and she's on her way home. I thought she was already in New York. At the hospital, Dan arrives and fills Blair in on the story. Dan doesn't think his actions sound like something Serena would do. But Blair disagrees, saying it's probably just like Serena she used to know. It's like the Serena she used to know. Meanwhile, Lily learns from the doctors that it was a drug overdose, but Serena should be fine. She continues from what she was concerned that drugs they found in her system and what best would be for rehab. Lily tells Rufus she doesn't think Serena was meant to harm herself. She doesn't think Serena meant to harm herself and doesn't think that she was taking medication without telling them. At Archibald, Nate confronts Anne about the papers and begs her to give Howard a second chance, but she's firm when she says he won't ever change and isn't going to change her mind. Back at the hospital, Lily, Rufus, Eric, Dan, and Blair discuss what next step to take. The doctor suggests an involuntary hold, where she has to go wherever she wants to or not. Dan says they shouldn't admit her against her will, but Blair argues that it might be best for her. Eric points out that a news story about Serena is running on news, and they all hear her phone call for the first time. Chuck comes in and announces that the paparazzi are camped outside, and Blair realizes they're probably going to be outside the Vander Woodson's building soon. Lily decides to have an involuntary hold to transfer Serena to the Ostrom Center, where Eric was when he tried to kill himself. And at the center, Serena is peeved at them for committing her. Eric tells her that when he was there, he didn't want to be there, but it took him a long time to come to terms with what he did too. Elsewhere, Dan fills Nate on what happened, and Dan wonders if something else is going on. Nate gets text from his mom to come home before he leaves. He tells Dan that Serena acting out is her trying to pull people back into her world of drama, and Nate is basically done with her forever. At Juliet's apartment, Jenny arrives to see her. Juliet assures Jenny that everything Serena did after the party wasn't on them. Yeah, basically, that's basically you as a manipulator, Juliet, basically blaming the other person for something you did. So they're basically trying to turn Juliet into a master manipulator now. After Jenny leaves, and they might have opened the door. And they might have opened the door to a bigger problem. Jenny, who was planning on telling what they did, agrees to wait before saying anything to anyone. After Jenny leaves, Juliet sends a photo of herself dressed as Serena doing cocaine to Gossip Girl. At the center, Dan arrives to break Serena out. She admits to him that she came to the party to kiss him and only him. At Juliet, Vanessa calls her and learns that Jenny is about to tell the truth. She agrees with what she's doing, and Julia warns her that since Jenny is their family, she will be forgiven, but Vanessa never will. Julia explains that she will lose all of them, especially Dan, who will go back to Serena after they hang up. She's a master manipulator. We knew this, but we now know it. Juliet begins packing her apartment. At the center, Blair and Chuck talk. As they do, they see Jenny walking the building. Jenny goes to see Rufus, who basically Vanessa got to him while writing and basically squarely blamed everything onto Jenny. Yeah, she basically got there and was like, "Oh, hey, Rufus, everything." Yeah, basically, Jenny goes there to tell them the truth, but not knowing, Vanessa got there and told Rufus and blamed everything squarely on Jenny. Before Jenny can reply, Rufus comes down and announces, Serena is gone. Meanwhile, Nate goes to see his dad in prison and is surprised when Anne comes in to visit as well. She agrees to hear Howard out, and Nate was never a mistake they made. At the law, Dan hurries around to pack a bag so they can leave town. Serena thanks him for blaming her, but right before they go out the door, Lily and Blair arrived to stop them. Outside, Jane admits to scheming against Serena, but also complains that Juliet and Vanessa were responsible. Rufus tells her that he's not Juliet and Rufus, he's not Juliet and Vanessa's dad. He's her. So that she was still responsible for the plan and agrees with her when she says she shouldn't have come back to the city. Meanwhile, at the law, Serena tells Blair and Lily that she doesn't want to talk to them. She goes to Dan's room to be alone. And Blair follows. Lily asks for a one-on-one with Dan, and he recommends she talk to Serena instead of making the decisions that aren't necessarily best for her. Lily realizes that maybe what Serena did was a cry for help, and as for her mother, maybe she didn't hear it. And basically says that Dan's like a son to her. Or I think that's what she said. In Dan's room, Serena reminds of when she struggled with bulimia and how Serena walked her to the doctor to make sure she went to be taken, and then to be taken. then to be there to take her home. Serena again says she didn't do it, even though it was crazy to think that. While they talk, Gossip Girl Blast comes in and photos Juliet, although Gossip Girl says it's Serena. She sees the blast and tells Lily to take her back to Austria. Afterwards, she goes to sit in Dan's room and tells him that since she doesn't remember being in the photo, she isn't sure what else she's capable of. Dan promises her to always believe in her, and they kiss. Eric enters the room and tells Lily that Lily's downstairs waiting for her. Rufus arrives back, and Dan apologizes. He has to be alone, and Rufus goes off and tries to save the holiday. At the prison, Juliet meets with Ben. He tells her that she did everything she did, including drugging her and dropping her out of Columbia. However, Ben is not pleased that she did that and tells her that she went too far. In the car, Blair rambles while Chuck sits next to her. She explains that she said what she said to him, but Chuck says that she would make the right choice and they can't be together. He also tells her that they can't be friends either. At the prison, Juliet runs into Howard in the cafeteria, and she watches as he goes sit next to Anne and Nate. She heads to the exit and throws her ID away, telling the guard she's going away for a while. Jenny arrives at Juliet's apartment, right here, to find it completely empty except for a bag of trash, which contains the mask she wore dressed as Serena. Outside the prison, Anne admits to Nate that Howard has really changed, and she was wrong to assume he hadn't. At the Vander Woods, Rufus and Lily agree to pack up their food and take it to the Austria. She admits that she feels as a mother, she should take responsibility for what happened. Rufus tells her that the parenting only goes so far, and they both end up with daughters they can't control. Lily gets a text and tells Rufus she'll meet them there. At the World War, Jenny goes to see Blair and explain everything they did. After figuring it out, Blair asks her to help take down Juliet, but Jenny declines, saying that Blair was right to banish her and she needs to stay gone. Meanwhile, Rufus meets with Juliet. Lily meets with Juliet at a bar and hands over a check to protect Serena's history. Juliet promises to stay quiet as long as the check comes every month, so she can say how sorry she is about Serena overdosing. At the prison, Nate learns from Howard is up for parole soon, and he was talking about how sure he would like to get it once everyone knew he would be with Anne. At the Empire, a pie arrives for Chuck from Blair, discloses with no telling him they can't, just because they can't be friends doesn't mean they aren't. Elsewhere, Vanessa gets a text from Jenny telling her that she told Blair everything and that she can't lie her way out of it. Vanessa calls her mom and tells her that she's headed home, taking the last train out of the city. And yeah, that's the end. That's not the end of Vanessa, but Vanessa is basically gone from the show for after this for 11 episodes. Yeah, this is the last we see of Vanessa for 11 episodes. At the Austria, Lily arrives with fries for Serena and promises to handle everything with her together. At the law, Blair arrives to see Dan. She tells him what happened and asks him to help her get revenge, and that's it. And guess what? We never see Jenny again, except for Rufus mentioning her and a non-speaking appearance in the series finale. But as is, this is Jenny's last appearance. So anyway, that was episode 10. Really good. Even though, yeah, this is Jenny's final appearance. That's why I made the background of this video, because this is her final appearance. And I wanted to commemorate how Taylor Momsen really did a good job. I know she had to leave the show due to her wanting to be on her music career, and she had to stop through her tour to return to the show for that non-speaking series finale cameo. But yeah, that's it. This is the last we see of Jenny, except for Rufus and Dan and everyone mentioning her in later seasons, in season 5 and 6, or season 5, I think. But this is Jenny's last episode as a main cast member. Again, except for a non-speaking cameo in the series finale. But yeah, next episode we got the townie. Juliet goes MIA, and Dan and Blair decide to go looking for her, and end up running into Damien Delgard along the way. And yeah, along the way they run into Damien Delgard. Yeah, remember Damien? He last appeared in season 3, episode 15, 16-year-old virgin. They run into him, who's at a frat party. Who's at a house Juliet is apparently staying at. So yeah, can't wait to watch the next episode. Might do it after this one because I really want to get to because I really want to end the story arc, the Juliet story arc, with really good, goodness. So yeah. Next episode, we end this Juliet story arc. We find out why the Sharp family hates Serena so much, and we find out that Lily's keeping a secret of her own from both Serena and Chuck. So yeah, and could it be the worst thing Lily has ever done in the series? Could it be the worst thing and make you actually dislike Lily? Find out next time on season 4, episode 11, The Townie. I understand why it's called The Townie, but yeah, probably going to do it after this one because I really want to finish off today's reviews with episode 11. But yeah. Also, probably going to do a Jenny tribute because I really want to do one. I'm probably going to put a video of a tribute of Jenny or something because yeah, this is Taylor Momsen's final appearance as Jenny, where she actually has a full-on speaking line, where she speaks. So yeah, I'm gonna put in a Jenny tribute, where a video tributes Jenny and all she did, because even though Jenny was kind of a villain in season 3 and kind of here, she was still a good character and was acted well. She was acted well, and she was kind of a good foil for the Vanessa Nate relationship and the Nate Serena relationship. So yeah, this is Jenny's last episode. So you know you love me. XOXO, Gossip Girl. Little J may be leaving the show, but there's a tribute for Queen J coming along the way. Find out next time. Find out. But are you ready when Lonely Boy and Queen Bee find out where Jay is? Find out where Jay is, and what is Lily, and what is Mrs. Vanderwood? What is Mrs. Bass really? Mrs. Humphrey really hiding? What is she hiding from both her daughter and her apparently adoptive son? Find out next time. But you know you love me. XOXO, Gossip Girl.